If you've ever been hacked, gotten a virus on your phone or computer, or been a victim of cybercrime, you'll know how much of an impact the security of our technology has on our lives. Corporations are no different, but with attacks on an exponential rise, insurance faces a significant challenge. To manage this risk, provide capacity, and serve customers as they need to be served. We are thrilled to have Daljit, head of Tokio Marine Innovation Lab in London, to bring us his wisdom on not only the challenges posed by cyber, but also the opportunities within the struggles. Please join me in welcoming Daljit.
Hello. Okay, this is getting late, but some friendly faces at least. Thank you. So let me just give some context of what I'm doing at Tokio Marine. So I have two roles. One is I'm the global head of cyber risk, so I look after the cyber insurance line of business. And I'm also head of the Innovation Lab London. So Tokio Marine have 7 innovation labs, 3 in the Americas, so Silicon Valley, New York, and Sao Paulo, myself in the middle in London, and then 3 in Asia, so Tokyo, Taipei, and Singapore. And each lab has a different focus. So me being in London, it's all about insurtech, so hence presenting and talking about all things about cyber insurance. So what I will endeavor to do is tell a story, actually, which brings in both sides of my role. So talk about the peril, so cyber risk, what's happening with cyber risk, how is it impacting business. I'll talk about the product, so that's the cyber insurance side. So that's my other day job. Give you a slide on reality, so what are organizations thinking about cyber, how does it impact them? The opportunity, so where I think certain areas, insurtechs and other people can collaborate, and then potentially the future. So if anybody saw the social media post that the ITC DIA did for this session, it was me looking a little bit like Tom Cruise, Minority Report. I've got my glasses on so I can actually see this way, otherwise I think we'd be struggling. But I can't predict the future, especially with cyber, but I will try and give you some insights. That's probably the best I could do. Okay, so cyber risk as a peril. So I'm going to have to turn around and look at this. But as you can see from the graphic on the right, everything is on the increase from 2021 onwards. Most of it, and in insurance terms, we talk about severity and frequency. So that's continued to rise. Ransom payments have also increased. And it's actually quite a big business. But even today, there was an announcement in the London insurance press where the UK government, depending who actually wins the election, may move towards mandatory reporting of ransomware. So an organization, if they suffer ransomware, an extortion attempt, will have to notify the government. And the government would then have to, you would almost, I think it's something like you would have to apply for almost like a dispensation or a voucher to say, I'm going to pay the extortion. Because their approach in the UK and a lot of the governmental bodies is not to pay the ransom. So social engineering on the increase. This is what we call business email compromise. Geographical spread of this is increasing, so it's not just any particular area. Supply chain attacks have gone from physical supply chains like Colonial Pipeline all the way through to most commonly used software and vulnerabilities in the software. This is how supply chains can be attacked. And also AI is increasing the speed of threat actors being able to navigate and target organizations. But I think threat actors are doing well enough without AI, so that's an added complication. Probably the best way to describe how AI is being used today by threat actors is it's very easy for a generative AI model to capture, to do some reconnaissance about what is the organization, what do they do, who do they partner with, how do they trade, and to actually create the best phishing email you've ever seen, because it understands your pattern of your business model. And so AI is being used very much for that. And a little stat at the bottom there talking about the global economy from Checkpoint. So this is big business. Okay, let me go on to talking about the product. So this is the cyber insurance side of the house. End of 2023, it's estimated that the market was around 16 billion, depending on who you're talking to. Lots of stats about this. It's somewhere between, some brokers may say it's just over 14. I think there's a general consensus, it's 16. And as you'll see as I walk through this, the market is slowing. So the prediction of it being somewhere between 22 to 23 billion by the end of 26, probably not going to happen. And there's been other stats over the years that it would be 50 billion by 2030. Not going to happen. Okay, so there's something the industry has to address. The splits, it's been, for the last 15 years, very much a US-based product, but gradually, because of GDPR, it's coming into Europe. So I think North America used to be very much like 80%, but it's gradually being spread. And it's effectively being spread across the globe, so into Europe and then into Asia. And the growth there on that chart, most of that UK number is Lloyd's, but really Lloyd's are actually insuring US domiciled risk, okay? And then continental Europe, Asia, the biggest two countries are really Japan and Australia, and then Canada as a very, very actually competitive market is growing quite quickly. So there is some growth, but obviously the key point there in the middle is as a market cycle, we're now very much in a soft market. Okay, and what I mean by that, people who are not from insurance, is the rates are slowing, and there's a lot of competitiveness on rate within the market for insurers, so much so that you might find terms and conditions broaden, which isn't a good place to be, but that's actually what's happening. Asia Pacific still has some opportunity on growth in personal lines and things like that. But the bottom bullet, I should say, is very important. So without really closing the protection gap, insurance for cyber will become more difficult, okay? Because we need to address how to look at that, how we should look at risk prevention rather than just sell a product in the market. Okay, so another slide on the product. This is hopefully showing a bit of a life cycle change in how people are viewing cyber insurance. So maybe as much as 8 years ago, the market was solely based on looking at a questionnaire. And as part of that, to price the product, it was mainly focused on things like who the organization is, the sector they're in, and where they're domiciled, okay, and potentially, the amount of records or personal records they have. So it was all about proposal forms. What happened in 2019 was a watershed moment and actually created the first cycle for cyber insurance, because it'd been quite a slow market for years. Ransomware hit. So 2019, there was just a big slurry of ransomware across the globe, everybody being attacked. And those that are insurers in the room know that without claims, it's very difficult to write a product and very difficult to sell a product. So on the back of that, insurers changed their approach to say, well, we also need to scan our insureds from the outside. This is non-intrusive, and it's an ability to say, well, in the proposal form or in our dialogue with them, they're saying they adopt best practice. We can quickly scan to see if they are. Things like, have they closed certain ports which are vulnerable, all the way through to do they use certain types of tools on their network. So that's the next phase. Phase 3 is once we got into the uptick in the market faced around ransomware, we moved very quickly into hard market. And in the hard market, to maintain the insurer's real book of business, They wanted to make sure that they're constantly monitoring the network. Okay, so an example would be there's been a vulnerability and it's a commonly exploited vulnerability. We can scan an insurer's network to make sure they patch for that. When they say they're using MFA, multi-factor authentication, we can check for that. Okay, lots of insurers are doing this, so continuously scanning. And this is where I would say the stickiness with an insurer and their clients is very important, because historically most people will just move based on rate on cyber insurance, but we need to be closer to the client. And then outside in scanning, or inside out I should say, is augmenting the outside. So organizations, especially SMEs who need support with cyber, are allowing insurance companies or third parties to access their data, make connections to certain infrastructure in their data, and be able to scan from the inside. That will augment what's happening. Okay, so that's also what's has really changed within the market. Okay, so just I wanted to share a little bit about who's who really, because Tokio Marine is very much viewed as a top 10 carrier in cyber insurance, and the only thing I would share on this list is the top bullet of each one of the three is the largest of the three. Okay, and I'm not particularly going into any order with the others. So Beazley, Lloyd's Syndicate, London Market Syndicate Carrier, very much the largest, and I can say that because I can see their public announcements on investor relations events. Munich Re, where I used to work, the largest reinsurer for this, also have a syndicate, also Right Direct, Coalition, the biggest insurtech. And this, as I wrote at the top there, so P&C carriers, were they asleep or were they driving asleep behind the wheel when insurtech took off? I think to some aspects, they didn't expect the insurtechs to get so far ahead. But a lot of them were providing capacity anyway, so they learned very quickly from the insurtechs. And it's one of the only markets where I've seen people like Munich Re and Swiss Re work together to support the insurtech. But the pattern here is the traditional P&C carriers caught up very quickly. Yep. So, and in a hard market, the insurtechs, their valuation grows very quickly because it's based on rate. Now the market's slowing and almost plateaued, their valuation will come down. And actually, we saw Corvus acquired last year by Travelers. So there may be more acquisition in that insurtech space. Okay, so this is the reality. I'm just checking the time. So so two things here. Obviously, everybody can read that graph of where people say the colours are important. Insufficient resilience, think it meets minimum requirements, I think it exceeds. And over the years, they think it exceeds is going up, but that's because organizations spending more money, especially large organizations, not necessarily SME or mid-tier. And then on that graph, what it's basically saying is, between the 2-year period, low revenue SME is saying, I'm getting worse at cyber resilience. Okay? And in the other graph, the large enterprises believe their maturity is increasing for cyber. But if you look at the stats at the top, it's increasing for large organizations because they're spending a lot of money. And they have, so 68% of firms increase their volume of standalone security tools. So think of it as a stack. Large corporates are buying more equipment, latest buzzwords, latest technology. There's a lack of consolidation and what I would say risk quantification internally is their posture improving. So there is a slight challenge with that in the marketplace. And you know, the point there about resilience, how do you improve resilience without reducing too much costs? It's very difficult to do. So the opportunity, and I used to work in central government many years ago in my consulting career before I moved into insurance. And you know, the Cyber Essentials scheme's been out possibly at least 10 years. Each country has a similar approach to this. They call it, you know, but actually the essential controls, you could apply them in any environment. Okay, and the UK National Cybersecurity Centre is pushing loads of initiatives to improve cyber risk. So what insurers are doing, and I think what cyber risk vendors are doing, is incorporating that methodology into their tool sets. Okay, so insurers are making, cyber insurance companies are making sure that those controls are in place before they're prepared to provide a quote. Yep. Especially in the hard market, where we were very easy to do very good risk selection based on these controls. Microsoft's view, okay, very similar. Multi-factor authentication. Some insurance carriers won't insure you for cyber insurance unless you've got multi-factor authentication, or they'll give you a grace period to install it. Okay, zero trust, which effectively is trust but verify. So everything outside your network shouldn't be trusted. Extended detection response. So there's EDR. There's a lot of acronyms in insurance and in cyber insurance. EDR is endpoint detection response. So I can block certain traffic happening. Extended is, it's not just the endpoint, it's servers, it's network, it's cloud systems. So, and then actually you have to go into almost like a, and the next slide will show some area for that. Patching cadence, very important. How good are you at patching? Okay, so I don't know what Microsoft's stat is of their deployment in enterprises and SME, but I'd say it's probably high 80s in organizations. So there's a lot of things they could follow there. And my kind of future slide, what I'm trying to do is describe the opportunity in both. So in cyber insurance, risk transfer is difficult, and the market is slowing down. Okay. But if cyber insurance is to grow exponentially 20 points, 30 points year on year, it has to provide more than just risk transfer. There has to be a prevention side of it, a services side of it, because an improvement of risk is an improvement of GDP, is an improvement of sector, and the whole economy improves. Okay, and this stickiness is very important. So there may be a move for more prevention type services. Conversely, large enterprises with this large stack of cyber equipment, cyber tooling, are finding it very difficult to manage that. And their move may be to, I've been in this game so long that we used to have tin in data centers, we moved the tin into the cloud, and actually it's probably now cost effective to bring it back into your premises, okay? And outsource some of these functions. So the managed detection response will bring all of those EDR, XDR functions together and enable large enterprises especially to demonstrate risk quantification, and improvements in risk quantification. So the UK government is saying, the market for a managed service provider is 52 billion. That's a lot of money. The largest 10 is 14 billion. That number is not too far away from where we are in cyber insurance. So I think the future will be around insurers developing tools and services that mirror some of the MDR, and MDR providers being able to provide warranties to their customers using insurers to say that if you deploy this stack, you'll be in a better position. Okay, I think that's the last slide. Thank you.